Well, hello there, You-est You listener. It is Julie. I am here so excited for this interview today. I want to tell you a little bit about Caroline before you get to meet her yourself. If you've noticed, there's been a trend going on. I just love interviewing healers, intuitives, amazing entrepreneurs and leaders just up to making a big impact in the world and helping you and I to unlock our intuition and our own gifts. And today's guest is totally doing that. So let me introduce you to Caroline Diana Bobart. Caroline is a professionally trained clairvoyant and spiritual mentor. Caroline helps super smart, soul-driven women and some soul-driven men with successful businesses to create deep resolution and healing around the personal issues affecting their productivity and happiness levels during the day and keeping them up at night. And just so you know, you can find Caroline at carolinediana.com. So we're just going to get right into it because there's so much here to talk about, Caroline. First of all, welcome. So awesome to have you.
Thank you so much, Julie, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited. I mean, this is one of my favorite topics. Right away, I just want to jump in and let's talk about this idea, being your You-est You, being your most authentic self. So let's talk about, when did you know you were clairvoyant? What does clairvoyant mean? Like, let's kind of define it. How did you know? And then we're going to go all things clairvoyance.
Yeah. What is clairvoyance? So clairvoyance it's like an old French word that really means clear seeing. So we use our sixth chakra, or our third eye, which is in the center of our forehead, and that's our imaging faculty, right? That's where we see things. And one of the unique things about being sentient beings is that we think in images. So this is a faculty that we all use, right? This ability to image when we think about the future, when we think about what we want to create, when we think about the past, when we think about what we want to have for breakfast, is all in pictures. We don't think in words, right? So whether you are consciously thinking about something or unconsciously thinking about something or tapping into something, it's all coming to you in pictures. And some people get that and they're really in tune with that. And some people probably use other senses in combination as well. Like they hear things, like they'll hear avocado on toast or so we all have these extra senses that we use. Clairvoyance is you see it referenced in very old literature and old religions, for millennia. It's something that is well known and well documented. The thing about being a trained clairvoyant is that you go through years and years of training and reading so that you have over time your own bank of personal references for what you're seeing. And I think that's what makes the difference between someone who's trained and somebody who is naturally clairvoyant and may not necessarily know what they're looking at. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking for those listening who are like, we have our five senses, and then I think there's the whole other world. You could say your six and plus, right? These other senses that we're all wired. We all have the ability to tap into. So it sounds like, I love that definition. And that's a whole other, we'll come back to this thinking in pictures. I've had this conversation with a few friends about why I love emojis, and that for me, because I think in pictures often before words. Yeah. I found emojis are like symbols that can sometimes capture what I'm feeling or thinking first. And this just gave me this interesting. I wonder if that's connected. But I love this idea that, this third eye, this we all imagine, we all have a way of kind of tapping in. So tell us, Caroline, about you and when you started to notice this gift within you. Like, how did you wake up one day? Did this happen when you were little? How did you figure out that this was one of your gifts?
I think I was very much naturally intuitive and clairvoyant as a child, but not being trained up until my 20s. I was very much that type of person who would feel things and pick up on things, but not necessarily be able to put it into a context or a structure where I could say, this is what I feel and this is what I sense. So I would have random things that I might be able to say, oh my goodness, do you live in a White House? Just some strange random person. They're like, oh my God, yes, I live in a White House. Oh, and there's like pine trees outside, and yes, there's pine trees outside, but things like that, like, is so far removed now from what I do, because so much of my work is focused on the inner and someone's inner process and the inner healing and who they are as a spirit. And so that for me is a good example of when you pick up on things, but you're not really equipped. I wasn't really equipped to like really serve. I mean, that information is cool, but it doesn't really help you get to
Yeah.
The core of someone's struggle, for example.
Yeah. So you had this ability to tune into kind of information you may not have known, but you would see. Tell us, and for those listening that are like, oh, sometimes that happens to me. Sometimes, or I feel something, or I know something. What did you do to start to me, it's almost like harnessing. Like if you take a horse that's wild and it's like not rideable, but really pretty, but it's like, okay, let's make that horse, able to like ride and be a little less all over the place. How did you harness this gift? How did you do that?
It was such a long process, Julie, if I'm honest, but it was like exciting because it was like so packed with meaning for me. And like, it really involved, like, I think I was in college and I was like a sophomore, I think. And there was a junior woman who gave me this book by Marianne Williamson called A Return to Love. And that book like blew my mind at the time. It was like probably 1995. and then from there, like I like started reading like the Celestine prophecy that like opened me up to like, everything, there's energy everywhere, and everything's made of energy, and like this is what you pick up on, and this is how people communicate in energy, and this is how you get messages through like asking questions. And that came to be like one of the really key things about harnessing intuition is like you have to be like a private investigator, you have to be like a detective, you have to ask questions in order to get answers. And that's something that we don't know when we are when we're green. We just don't know how to put structure around the gift, to make it into a thing. And so that kind of opened me up to like energy healing. And then I just happened to meet this woman who had trained at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and I met her in Trinidad. She'd married someone from Trinidad, and she's from San Francisco. It was like so random. But then she started this school called the Academy of Clairvoyance and Consciousness, and I trained with her. I taught with her. I was her administrator for several years and did extensive training with her and teacher training with her. And the Berkeley Psychic Institute is one of the pioneers in psychic training in the world, to me. And their teachings were created from someone called Louis Bostwick, who was like really, he came up with all these tools and techniques, and really, there was a real classes structured around this type of thing about how you invite someone into a reading and how you structure a reading and how you tune into energy and how you interpret what you see and do healing around what you see and things like that. So it was meeting Francine. Her name is Francine Marie Shepherd, who was the Academy, and was such a big moment in my life, because that was really the start of my formal training. And that was about 2001, 2002.
Wow.
So
tell me, I'm just thinking, Caroline, for people listening, I think there's just a range of incredible, beautiful listeners out there that have been opening up to their own intuition, have had a sense of, I just don't know why I know this, or I feel this, or I see this. For those starting out or that want to hone in, whether it's clairvoyance or clairsentient or some sort of their deep intuition beyond the five senses, do you have any like tips or tools or anything that you could share that would be helpful, even going back to the asking questions? It's something I know that's been unlocking my intuition, but what could you share that would help people?
That was such an important process for me in the beginning, before I did any training at all. Like I would have like a topic that I was interested in, like a relationship, my friend's relationship, or my friend's job, or something, and then I would just list, what are the things I'm interested in finding out about this thing.
Yeah.
And so I would write that list of questions and just leave a space after each one. And
Yeah.
then I would go into like really quiet, sacred space, maybe light a candle, like really tune in, meditate before. And then I would just like kind of write whatever came up, not even in a conscious way, but just whatever I sensed, whatever I felt, whatever I saw. So it was really allowing myself permission to write and to document, to capture information that I hadn't like thought through. Like I hadn't censored it, I hadn't thought it through, I hadn't tried to connect the dots. It was just pure uncensored like consciousness on the page. And then I still wouldn't stop. I'd answer all the questions and then, come out of my meditation and then go back and look at the answers. And it was really such a powerful exercise in owning what I sensed and what I saw and what I felt, because so much about being intuitive and clairvoyant and being able to harness these gifts is your certainty about knowing what you know. Like I know that I've seen this. Like I may not understand what it is, but I know that I've seen it. I know that I've felt it. I know it has some significance, and I'm not going to let it go, right?
Yeah.
Because if you doubt yourself, then that information is lost.
Yeah, it's so powerful what you just said. This whole idea of, building almost like that muscle of certainty and confidence so that you start to acknowledge and trust it. It's such a great example. I love that. Creating a list of, before it's kind of gone through the processes, as you said, of going through your, your mind to see after you meditate or tune in what naturally comes up without editing. I love that process.
Yeah.
Excellent. So beautiful. Any other tips? I want to talk about what you do, and I'm curious. How you work.
Just in the early days, just to speak to those folks who like are still in this beginning thing. Like another, really fun thing I used to do, and I had this buddy at the time, and he was, kind of we kind of went through this awakening together. So it was really, really fun. So we'd like go to the beach and we'd like make circles and we'd experiment with step into the circle, step out of the circle, like feel the difference in the energy, do different things like that. And then one day we like decided to like hold something. I have a piece of my daughter's chalk here. So we had like crystals lying around. We like, let's just hold it in our hands and see what we feel. Like just ask me a question and we'll see what the stone says. And that was really, really fun because like we would put the stone in our hands and we would close our eyes and we would just tell the other person. I don't think we would know what the question was actually. I think the person held the question in their mind. And we would just say, okay, I see you on a boat and there's like a storm around and like, you're not swayed, you're not scared. Like, and we would like tell this whole story and then that would have like perfect significance and meaning for the other person, whatever we had shared. And we didn't know what we were looking at or what we were reading. So that was another cool thing. And I think it's just about experimenting really. And experimenting gives you the confidence to play and have fun. Because if it's not fun, it's like serious. And if it's serious, it becomes hard,
Oh, yeah.
So that vibration of fun is really important for harnessing these gifts.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that story. That does sound fun. And it could just be finding a friend and kind of playing back and forth, just closing your eyes. What do you sense? Even as simple as that. Love it. Do you have any, I don't know if there's any stories growing up or in your family, or did you ever have a time where it was the gift of being clairvoyant was, there was something you knew before others, or was it accepted in your family? Like, how was it growing up with this kind of gift? I don't know if you have any stories or situations where it was either, highlighted or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for the most part, it wasn't like it wasn't a thing. Not that I was like snuffed out or anything, but it just wasn't a thing in my family. Like, so I was probably a bit of an oddball, and but in the sweetest possible way. Like I think even now, my family still thinks I'm an oddball in the sweetest possible way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
um, but I would know things sometimes and really struggle to communicate what I knew because I had no reason for knowing what I knew. I had no clues that would say this is what was happening, like with an auntie who was sick, or um, you know, someone who was in pain, and I would make comments, and my dad would be like, I don't know where you come up with these things or whatever. And then it would turn out like, the auntie was sick, or, she was struggling with some situation in her life, or things like that. And then I think as I got older, it became more and more of a thing that I owned.
Yeah.
And you know, um, I can't say, I mean, I've always had my family's support, um, which is great. It wasn't something that I felt like I didn't have permission to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I always wonder because, in a world that is very focused on facts and intellectualism and listening to our brain and mind, and it can get, I think sometimes it can kind of, you can seem like the weirdo or the oddball or the like, she's just a little
Yeah.
different or
And
whatever it might be.
I think what I'd like to share as well is like I was really, really good at science. Like my degrees in interdepartmental biology and chemistry. So I walked for many years I walked a fine line between like hardcore science and like
Yeah.
totally woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it there came a time in my life where I had to really go through this kind of confession, this admission with myself, like, you're
Yeah.
not a scientist, like just stop the silliness, drop silliness, and just be who you are, and that is woo. You
Yeah.
will woo, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And I did start out just trying to be like everybody else, but
Yeah.
life had other plans.
My dream someday, I think woo is a funny word, but I'll tell you, and I'm seeing this more as we start to see science and spirituality intersect, is kind of shifting, because I use that word too. And I'm like, it almost puts it in a category of it's like not a thing. And what I've realized, I'm curious what you think about this, this ability to tune in on other planes, other levels beyond the five senses. I actually think not only do we have access to it, but this is like really powerful connections to information intelligence. You could call it source, creator, love, your higher self, higher powers. Like for me, it's like beyond powerful, beyond what my brain could give me. And so part of my dream is someday to have it where like that word, either it has a different connotation or there's like people get it and they're like, oh yeah, like whatever woo is should be just as much part of what we're learning as physics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's an important point, not to dismiss woo as unimportant or invalid in any way. Because in my work, like I have so much experience of actual quantum physics coming into play, where
Yeah.
people shift their vibration and everything, it's like dominoes in their lives, everything
Yeah.
shifts after.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. Caroline, talk to us about what you do and how you help people shift their vibration, how you tap into quantum physics. I think more and more people are learning about quantum physics. And, for those of us not scientists, maybe talk a little bit what your understanding of quantum physics is, and then what you do, and then how you see that make such an impact.
Yeah. So, my premise with being able to read someone's energy is that we're all made of energy, first of all, right? So what we see here is deceptive, and that we think this is it, and this is real. But as a clairvoyant, I'm trained to look beyond the physical body and to look at what your anatomy looks like energetically.
Yeah.
And that gives me experience of you as an energy being. So each of your cells has a unique vibration that captures your specific state of mind and emotional state and mental state and physical health. All of that is captured in the energy of your cells. When folks come to me and they have a struggle that they're dealing with, that they want help around, because what I like to call them, Julie, like enduring questions. Folks tend to come to me when they have like a question that they are stuck with, and they've been stuck with it for years, and they know that it's holding them back from whatever is next in their life. So an enduring question could be something like, will I ever find someone to love me and respect me?
Yeah.
When will I, how can I stop sabotaging my relationships and myself? How do I, why does this person continually like try to put me down? And what is my response to this? Why can they get away with that? And so an enduring question is something that, from my point of view, is something that folks struggle with, not just for years, but it's also, the question that we carry around with us that affects our mood, it affects our clarity, it affects our confidence. It really is like a gremlin that we live with and we take with us. Like those little baby carriers. it's like a little gremlin that we take with us that influences and like, really engages us in this dialogue that kind of binds us to a version of ourselves that's not who we really are. And then when we continually day in and day out act from this place of who we are not, we end up creating relationships and situations that reflect that place of being off kilter within ourselves. And then things get to a place where I can't take it anymore. Like I need to like just stop. I need to stop doing what I'm doing and figure out what's going on here, because I don't feel good. Like this relationship doesn't feel good, this job doesn't feel good, my life doesn't feel good. And what I do is I look at the dynamic of that enduring question. So in other words, why do you feel the way that you feel? Where is that in your body? Who's connected to it? And what is the pattern that's playing itself out there? Is it something from childhood? Is it something, is it one of your growth themes right now as a spirit to learn to see yourself and validate yourself? And really, sometimes life creates situations that really force us to step up. And it takes a lot of courage when we find ourselves in those moments where life is saying like, okay, like for example, when I was hiding out, like being a scientist, not that science, isn't valid, but it's not who I am, right? And I I worked in cancer research, and it took me 1.5 years after I wrote my resignation letter to actually hand it in. Like it was such a hard thing for me to do. To say, no, I'm a clairvoyant and this is what I do. 18 months to hand that letter in. And my husband kept saying, like, just do it. And I'm like, but just energetically, it was such a big deal for me to step up and say, this is my life's work and this is what I'm going to do. So essentially, when we look at your enduring question, what we're able to do is discern who you are separate from the patterns that you've become enmeshed in. And once you can see those patterns, that gives you the clarity that you need to stop playing them out. Because we can only like play out dynamics that we don't see ourselves in. Right. They're kind of like, you're driving and they're in your blind spot. And then suddenly you take something from your blind spot and you bring it in, front and center, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was doing that. Like, no, I won't be doing that anymore. Right. And that causes you to like completely dismantle the dynamic that you've been enmeshed in. And what happens when you do that is your energy shifts. So that's the magic of clairvoyance. For me, it happens again and again and again, where when you put your attention on energy in someone's space, they're also looking at it with you. So if we're looking at your heart chakra, in the fourth layer of your aura back there, and I say to you, Julie, like let's put our attention there and look at the little doorway there and see what's behind that door. You're looking at that with me, And the effect of that attention on that energy causes things to shift.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when energy begins to shift is that it starts to loosen up the patterns that we are, kind of enmeshed in and that have been set over many years. And
Right.
that creates opening. It creates, your availability for change. It creates different perspectives that you can see yourself from. It creates greater self-understanding. And also it creates choice, conscious choice, because we create unhealthy dynamics, often because of survival or because of the need for safety.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we get to a point in spirits where we're like, okay, we need more alignment here. We need more clarity. We need more like focus in order to move forward. And when things feel heavy and not right.
Yeah. Are there ways, in addition to working with you, which we'll have information, so people that are tuning in, I know so Caroline lives in like the beautiful part of Spain called Mallorca.
Mallorca. Mm-hmm.
Mallorca, it's gorgeous. But you come to the States often. You're, I know, a traveler, and you work with people all over. In addition to working with you, is there anything you can leave us before we kind of wrap up? Are there ways for those listening that are like, where do I begin? In addition to asking questions, are there ways to tune in to my own energy, I may not be able to see my own aura, but are there ways to tune into ourselves that can help at least with that beginning place of, I have this question, such as, like you said, will I ever find somebody somebody that I really can love and adore and that respects me? Or starting the career of my dreams, is that something that can really take off? Whatever the question is. Do you have any techniques or things that you can leave listeners with that might be a place to start from within?
Yeah, one of the things that I share with my clients or my students if I'm teaching often is it's an exercise where like you take a journey kind of inside of yourself, and
Yeah.
you kind of imagine yourself like as a little miniature version of you, and you can imagine like a spiral staircase that goes down into your head through your crown chakra, and you walk down that spiral staircase and you count down from 10 to 0, knowing that when you get to 0, like you're in this really, really deep place. You've counted slowly and you've like consciously made this intent that you're gonna go deeper. So if you imagine a spiral staircase, you go deeper and into yourself more and more and more from you as you go down from 10 to 0. And then you can imagine yourself like in a forest or on a beach or somewhere where you can just sit with yourself. And you can imagine, just sitting with yourself on this beach or in this forest, like really connected to source, that intelligence that is bigger than you and that knows so much more than you. And you can ask your questions there in that really deep place of connection and communication with that aspect of yourself. And again, you can ask your questions, see what comes up, not necessarily journal at that point, but just be in like dialogue and communication. And again, like what this does is that it opens you up to experiencing your intuition and your wisdom and your information in a different way, at a different depth. So.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love tools that are actionable and that are free and part of how we're designed. That is so perfect, Caroline. We also met, just for people listening in, we met through the Bold Heart amazing community with Fabienne Fredrickson. And I'm so glad that you reached out. You have such a beautiful mission. I know that you're really aiming to help as many people to not just unlock productivity, but like you said it, like those deep burning questions to really feel freedom and move forward. Anything else? Okay. As an intuitive, anything else that you feel like I want to share this, or this I think is important for our listeners to know. Anything else you'd want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah. This is an example of when you want to say something and you're not quite sure like how related or why.
Okay.
But before I got on this call with you, Julie, like one of the things that kept coming up for me, the messages that kept coming up was that folks will only like value you as much as you value yourself. And
Mm.
so that is something that has proven true for me my whole career. And it's something I see with my clients every day in their own journeys and around what they want to create. Like I can see all the potential in them. I can see
Yeah.
that they have everything, but until they start valuing who they are and what it's worth and who it's meant to serve, like that, those are the magic ingredients that give you access to your thing.
Oh, I love it. Beautiful. I love what you said. People will only value you as much as you value yourself. Oh, it's so true. Beautiful. Awesome. Such great wisdom. I totally value and honor you. And I think it's such a fun topic. And what I love is that this is like for all of us. If you're listening and you're a human being, so if your dog is listening, they have their own intuition. I don't know how to like tune into dog wisdom, although maybe someday I will. But if you're human and you're listening, then you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a big topic. And maybe, maybe at some point we can talk about finer things in more detail, with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just the surface, but and anyone who wants to find you, I know we can find you at carolinediana.com. And you have all your information there where you work with people and teach and coach
Yeah.
and do all kinds of amazing things. And
One thing I will say is like my work is so bespoke. I don't know if you use that word in the States. Bespoke means like customized, personalized.
Yes.
Yeah. That I always encourage folks to just reach out to me and have a conversation with me so that we can have a look at where they are.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the customized. Well, it has been a pleasure to have you. So fun. And thank you for sharing your deep, deep, deep wisdom. It's amazing.
Thank you, Julie. It's been so lovely like being on this podcast called You-est You, because I can't think of anything like a closer match to what I do in my work. So thank you for having me.